You are listening to Vision of a Global Village. It is the 28th of March, 2026, evening in the USA, morning in Bangladesh. Welcome to Ruby Amatullah, writer and geopolitical analyst. My name is Dr. Matthew Capiello, and we have a subject which is increasingly important over the last 18 months, which is building a more open society in Bangladesh. Ruby is binational and bicultural. She's lived for about an equal amount of time in both the United States as well as Bangladesh throughout her life. And most recently, she's been deeply involved in figuring out what to do next after the overthrow of Sheikh Hasina. Ruby, can you tell us a little bit about Bangladesh's vibrant um, and often revolutionary history over the past 50 years? Short question to start.
54 years. Well, Bangladesh became independent from Pakistan. It was East Pakistan. Bangladesh was East Pakistan. And because of the oppression and injustices and failure in democracy, people here always wanted democratic government and good governance. That is their desire. I don't think nationalism, the spirit of nationalism is that strong as much as it is the desire to have a good system, democratic system, and good governance. That is what people fought in 1971 to become free from Pakistan, the liberation war. And since then, these 54 years, the democratic experiment has repeatedly failed. And, and the people have been aggravated and impatient, the suffering and all these kinds of the torture, the crushing of the opposition and mismanagement and all these things are, um, this is a story of failure. Very little success with democracy and very little success in good governance of this country. And people are basically fed up now. They are looking for somebody or some leader to come and rescue the country. So what happened is that let me give you a little briefing about these 54 years, that after some mess up in the beginning, one party rule and all this, the major political party did some blunder. And so that dragged the nation onto the path of military rule and authoritarian rule for some time. But in 1990, there was nationwide uprising and movement, and all political parties came together to topple the then military ruler, General Ershad. And so a democratic path started at that time. So Bangladeshi people have been trying and trying to establish democracy and a good governance and good leaders should come, and they have been trying. And this 1971, then 1990, there was a huge movement, and then that toppled military ruler, and then a democratic transition started. But I think that two major political party, the Awami League and the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP, these two parties are equally, if not equally, they are both responsible for bringing the country to a very devastating situation. And so in 2007, 111 took place, which is military took power again, but realizing that it cannot hold the power very long, it held an election, gave an election. It worked as an interim government at that time, and or caretaker government, but it was actually not an impartial. It has a political agenda, and I think that military government was influenced by India and a lot of other things, but it boils down to that it they gave an election. That election, I think, and many people believe that that it is an orchestrated election kind of. Maybe that it was a little bit freer and all that, but there was some manipulation. And Army League came to power with two-third majority. And that is what India wanted. That is what India wanted, because there was some understanding that Army League is going to go with the wishes of India.
And it
So
was hoped,
gradually,
and it was hoped that with the ousting of Sheikh Hasina in the last 18 months, that this was going to be a trigger for building a
go
better
away.
society.
Sheikh Hasina came to power in 2009, and she ruled until 2024, about 15 years, until she was ousted on August 5. Now that she came to power with two-third majority, and two-third majority, when a democratic system now is not in place, and like in Bangladesh, developing countries, and experiment is failing again and again. Two-third majority is a killer of democracy, because not a single time a political party came with two-third majority could manage his own party or manage the country or govern the country well. These both were ruinous. This time this happened. The Army League became a absolutely a fascist party, and Sheikh Hasina's rule became a fascist rule. She captured consolidated power as never before. She has ruled Bangladesh as a tyrant.
And so it was hoped that by removing her, we were going to make a difference in terms of creating a society that represents the people more effectively, a society where votes are not bought, a society where interests are not based around nepotism or influence. And we're now about a year and a half out from the end of her rule. Are we anywhere closer to having an open society in Bangladesh?
The transition process was a good process, more or less. And we were expecting that something good would happen. And what happened is that 2024 July, this is a July movement, or July uprising. The entire nation, because this is what the policymaker wants to hear about. So the pent-up frustration for 15 years and actually for 54 years of mismanagement and misrule and failure of democratic system, abuse of power and corruptions, rampant corruption, all these things, pent-up frustration of the people exploded in July of 2024. And in a month, the Sheikh Hasina's government fell. That nobody expected. It was beyond expectation that a tyrant, a powerful tyrant like Sheikh Hasina, who consolidated power in the hands and in all sectors of the society. It's like Mubarak fell in 18 days in Tahrir Square movement, like similar to that. But anyway, after that, Dr. Yunus took over, and it was an interim government, and he did some mistakes. Instead of declaring it's a government after a rebellion, and starting with a new constitution, giving a referendum and all these lot of things he could have done, he didn't. He failed also. But there was a transition where they finally came to a consensus that there are fundamental reforms should be done on the system, because through faulty amendments, the Constitution became an instrument of a fascist rule. So the Constitution needs either completely rejected and creating a new Constitution, or a lot of reform. So the reforms were agreed. So yes, go ahead.
So it looks like one of the main reform documents that's attempting to uh, form a consensus in post-Awami League Bangladesh. It was the July Charter. Now you go on
Yes.
Wikipedia and it says there's 80 different proposals within the July Charter. Give us some cliff notes. Give us some
Yeah.
bullet points on the most
No,
important.
there are a lot of reform, but basically there are 4 or 5 points that are critically important. One is that the political party leader cannot be the prime minister. If the political party comes to power, cannot the party leader cannot be the prime minister or speaker of the house, and that is a very good checks and balance. Then the parliamentary member would have freedom of choice in casting their votes in different bills and all that. Before that, if it was amended in such a way that it is called Clause 70, which is that a parliamentary member, if he or she votes against his own party for for a bill, then he will be or she will be ousted from the political party, ousted from the parliament. She would lose or he would lose his parliamentary position. This is so severe that the entire parliamentary system became hostage to the ruling party. So cutting down that was then dismantled with this reform. The reform also created bicameral system, two houses. The upper house will be elected on proportional representation and will hold a lot of powers on that. And then there are the appointment of the military head and judiciary's independence were addressed. So there are some very good reform package that everybody liked. So that reform package was then given in the election, and that election took place this February of this year, 12th February. And with the general election, the parliamentary election, there was also side by side a referendum. So there was a two ballot paper. One was for the choosing of the parliamentary members, representatives. The other one was yes or no referendum vote. 68% Bangladeshis, okay, who voted, 68% of them said, we want a change. We want this reform to be implemented. We want this reform, the July Charter. We want July Charter. Yes, we want July Charter to be implemented. 68%. 50 million people voted for that.
And
And
so
now,
how is the BNP doing in terms of
so the
implementation
BNP
of the
came to
goals of the
power.
judge? Yeah.
Yes. So still we are afraid that the election was manipulated somewhat, if not 100%. And the two-third majority again by the BNP. So two-third majority again poses a serious problem in a country like Bangladesh, because if a political party come to power with two-third majority, that party has enormous grip on the it actually dismantled, because it can then make amendments, change the constitution. It's like Hitler did with one amendment, turn a democratic system into a tyranny. It's a similar thing like that. And so they came to power, and now they are saying they are not going to respect um, the uh, the July Charter.
So
So now
do you think they're amenable to outside pressure?
there are some outside geopolitical pressure, particularly pressure coming from India, because I think that India's mistake, and I don't think that India has learned from this mistake. To put it bluntly, um, that if they were on the side of Bangladeshi people, and if they were um, played a constructive role in supporting Bangladesh's democracy, I think India would have been a staunch supporter the Bangladeshi people would have been a staunch supporter of India. But Indian leadership failed to understand the core truth of Bangladeshi people, that the Bangladeshi people right now are very anti-India, very anti-Indian sentiment. And that is the reason this election came and they voted. BNP, Army League was invalidated for this election. And there was good reason for that. But anyway, right now in a precarious situation, because the BNP has two-third power, is with the enormous power, that also we believe that there are some election engineering took place, and we are again on square one.
And
So
it seems really challenging because when you're stuck in between multiple extremely ominous geopolitical powers, you kind of want to try to respect a country's self-determination and autonomy as much as possible. I mean, just look a few hours north in Nepal, with the election of some of the younger, really dynamic, kind of vibrant candidates. Nepal seems to be staking out its own path, and I think a lot of us want to see the same for Bangladesh. But what do you think that there are substantial differences or different challenges with Bangladesh as compared to Nepal?
Nepal faces even higher challenges because it is sandwiched between two giant rival powers, China and India, and it is a landlocked country. But the reason Nepal has been relatively successful with its democratic experiment is that it has all the political parties have come to a cohesive, inclusive culture, political culture, and good understanding among themselves, that in order to make this vulnerable, tiny country independent and retain its sovereignty, the political parties has to have good understanding among themselves. This is missing in Bangladesh. This is missing in Bangladesh. And Bangladesh political parties are too self-centered, short-sighted, and none of them has demonstrated a vision, and and they are self-destructive. The reason they are self-destructive is because eventually people don't trust any of them. Any of the political parties have lost trust and confidence among the people. They vote because there is no other option, and the people want to vote because they want to exercise their right. But it's this where people are not so educated, and still they are politically very aware, and they see that when election comes, they are very eager to vote. They want a fair and free election, but never an election took place which is beyond question. That's another problem. We have been thinking that at least once and for all that United Nations should come and hold a fair and free election, because the trust and confidence of the people on political process and political system, political parties is very low. And this is why, again, we are back to square one, facing a authoritarian rule. Now,
Do you think it hold on, do you think it's square one though? Because I mean, like when Sheikh Hasina was removed, a lot of the Bangladeshi American diaspora, a lot of the Bangladeshi UK diaspora were really excited. You know, like a lot of diaspora groups. On the one
oh,
hand, you see like what's happening with the Iranian diaspora. They can be kind of a negative element. On the other hand, with many other diaspora communities, Ethiopian diaspora communities, Palestinian diaspora communities, they're a real force for good and a force for
they are
influence in
forceful.
their home country.
Yes,
Do you think
they did.
the diaspora has
They
a lot of
did.
international connections? Do you think they can help to kind of push international pressure on Bangladesh?
I have been saying this for a long time, that like, say for example, American Muslims are common denominator between the two segment of humanity that are in clash, like the West and the Muslim majority countries, the Muslim world. and these dual nationals, or these people coming from one country to another country on their next generation are very constructive. They can play a very constructive role in bridging the gap and making a constructive engagement and contribute in a positive change. And they are definitely a very powerful factor. If they want to be united and um, and determined. Now, I want to give you a geopolitical position of Bangladesh, that why the rival powers like China and India and America and Europe are all so interested in Bangladesh. And what is the reason? Bangladesh doesn't have petroleum. Bangladesh does not have a big mineral or anything, but Bangladesh is geopolitically in a critical place. It is a connection between South Asia and Southeast Asia. It is the Bay of Bengal, and its connectivity is a powerful place. A geopolitical place is very important for Bangladesh. And China has, and right now, more or less dominance in the South China Sea. And if they can control the Bay of Bengal, then I think China can keep a major checkmate to America.
So,
But America understand that. So that's why American politics become important, and geopolitical interest become important for Bangladesh, because Bangladesh is a very vital place. And India is another factor. If you look at the map, India, eastern part of India is, Bangladesh is in between India. It's like Bangladesh is surrounded by India. The other side is Assam, and we call it Seven Sisters, a region that India wants to connect. And so India has to go through Bangladesh, or the Chicken Neck area. It is very difficult and expensive route to go through above the Bangladesh. So this geopolitical situation makes India very desperate to have a grip on Bangladesh. But I think they are mistaken in their understanding.
so I mean, yeah, so the Trump administration, for all of their faults, have very much emphasized that the role of China can be negative in the East. Um, do you think that the United States Congress or even the Trump administration could be useful in terms of putting pressure on Bangladesh to
Oh,
become a more open and effective society?
American policy, if it is thought out policy, is always very influential. I'll give you an example. In 2021, America imposed a sanction, Magnitsky sanction, against 8 RAB members, top people who were doing a lot of what do you call tortures and political work for the Sheikh Hasina and all that. And as soon as that sanction was placed, Matthew, it is like day and night difference. Immediately, the political parties came to the street, and there was no crossfire. There is no illegal, no repression. Political parties came, and Bangladesh was very anti-American, became pro-American. So American policy, just simple policy at that time, just sanction against 8 members of RAB who were doing criminal things against. That opened the political arena free for political parties to come up to the street. Before that, they were scared to death even coming to assemble or to talk or anything with it, because there would be hundreds of cases against them. They will be taken prison. This was a lot of illegal things that Sheikh Hasina's government did. And a lot of political parties were murdered, leaders and tortures and all that. All these things stopped because of that sanction. So American policy is always important, but it has to be thought out policy. It has to come with a package that will demonstrate to the people of Bangladesh that they are on the side of people of Bangladesh. They want democracy to flourish and good governance to take place, and so that the people can benefit. And this is the essence of things. If
So if you had
America wants,
so if you had an opportunity tomorrow to meet with the State Department, to meet with little Marco Rubio, what would be like the one or two key things that you would want the State Department to do to ensure an open society in Bangladesh?
I don't know, Marco Rubio would have the vision to understand what I'm talking about. But anyway, say for sake of argument, that I would say that, look, that if you think about American policy since the Cold War, these 70, 80 years policy is a failed policy, because America has been going for the puppet governments, authoritarian governments, and destroying democracies. Even in 2005, Condoleezza Rice, she was the Secretary of State at that time of Obama administration. He came to Egypt and gave an open statement. He says our decades of policy was a wrong policy of choosing stability over democracy. And we have not got neither stability nor democracy in the places that our vital interest lies. So from now on, Condoleezza Rice said in that speech in 2005, she said, from now on, our policy is going to be different. But it didn't. After that, the neocons, the pro-Israeli groups, and the military-industrial complex, Wall Street elites and oligarchs, they completely changed the policy again, back to the darkness. So I would say this thing, that your policy that has been extremely expensive, trillions of dollars that could have been saved from taxpayers' money by going for democracy in the vital areas of interest like Iran, like Guatemala in 1954, like Congo, and all those places. If you would have gone for the people's interest, established democracy, today you could have achieved most of the global objectives at a fraction of the price the taxpayers have paid for the blunders of the immoral and short-sighted, self-centered politicians. So I would say that stop this policy, learn from the past, and go for the constructive role, win-win situation that Woodrow Wilson advocated, and Franklin Roosevelt advocated. If America would have stayed on their path, that what they said is that it's interesting. It is very important today as it was important 100 years ago or 50 years ago. They said America has become a superpower and the largest economy in the world. And our responsibility is to stand in solidarity with the suffering people in their struggle for independence and better life. Then the world will be a better place, a freer place, and a democratic place, and that will serve America's interest best. They envision this, the first part of 20th century. The next half and this quarter of these centuries, these 75 years, has deviated from that visionary path. Matthew, I can give you one example today. And I don't know whether
why don't we tidy up this conversation by thinking about the future? So, I mean, there's quite a few visionary people in government over the past decade. Some of the progressive House candidates who are potentially future Senate candidates, future presidential candidates, let's not discount them, um, are very adamant that they want a more fair and just foreign policy in terms of the United States approach to the rest of the world. Um, and many of them have constituencies that include the Bangladeshi diaspora. I mean, for instance, AOC's constituency includes Jackson Heights, which is pretty much a combination of Karachi and Dhaka, right in the middle of New York City. And also in Michigan, Hamtramck, for instance, has a huge Bangladeshi population, and other areas in and around Detroit. And both Rashida Tlaib and Sri Thanadar are ground zero for working with them. Uh, what do you think Congress people can do in terms of advocating for Bangladesh?
I think Congress people can do enormous things for America's national interest, as well as interest of the developing countries like Bangladesh. And it is a win-win situation. In this global society, interconnected in interdependent global society, and I call it global village, that we can't have this kind of counterproductive policies of putting a puppet regime, a strong man and dictator who represses his own people and mismanages the country. And then that will continue or stabilize that place. So this will not take place. This is going to haunt, and America has been haunted by these failed policies for a long time. Trillions of dollars have gone waste, and wars and all that could have been easily avoided. And so that time has come to understand this fundamental truth. And history is a testament to what I am talking about. I will give you one example. The example that I wanted to give you is would clarify that so beautifully, that the entire Vietnam War could have been totally avoided if America did not listen to the predatory forces or predatory elites that at the height of the Cold War, C.R. Mills is the iconic intellectual, a Columbia professor, wrote that in the book, The Power Elite. And he exposed that how the power elites have destroyed good policies of the United States that could have been enormously beneficial for American national interest. So the example I want to give you is that Woodrow Wilson's policies impressed the Vladimir Lenin. Now, he was an iconic communist leader and a rising communist leader, Vietnam's Ho Chi Minh, was so impressed that after Roosevelt died, he started communicating with Harry Truman's administration that I want to work with you, with the United States, not with China, not with Soviet Union. And Vietnam is going to be your ally. Give us help. You have helped Philippines and gave them independence. Don't we deserve independence? These kind of things he was writing in telegrams. He was writing messages. Just listen to this. The elites working with Harry Truman, and he was not a very good leader, visionary leader. And since the Cold War started, he also got panicked. And so this is a difficult time this was. And he completely abandoned talking to a communist leader because he was communist. Look at this. If he shook hand with Ho Chi Minh, no Vietnam War would have taken place. Vietnam would have been a strong, staunch ally of the United States at the foothill of China and near to close to Soviet Union. How powerful and how good ally that could have been. And Vietnam was an ally of the United States during the Second World War and fighting Japanese, by the way. So Ho Chi Minh was totally committed to Washington because he was so impressed with American policies of Woodrow Wilson and Franklin Roosevelt that he thought that that is the policy Washington is going to carry on. So he approached Washington and he got a slap on the back. So the Vietnam War came because of that. And what happened because of the Vietnam War? After decade and a half war and $1 trillion spending, America accepted a disgraceful defeat and withdrew from Vietnam. Why Vietnam, America got defeated? For two reasons. One was the short-sightedness. There was a proposal in the State Department in 1950s that instead of creating rivalry with Vietnam, let's give $500 million to Ho Chi Minh to build the war-torn Vietnam. And that will completely win over Vietnam. That was the fantastic recipe, fantastic constructive engagement and diplomatic engagement that Marshall Plan did, but it failed in Vietnam. $500 million in the early 1950s would have saved 2,000 times that America paid in Vietnam, more than $1 trillion in Vietnam for the war and disgraceful defeat.
Well, we hope that America can change its ways. Last few weeks,
this is the thing.
good,
this is the thing we need to understand now. This is the thing we need to understand. Another thing we need to understand is that we cannot eliminate China's influence. This is not a world that is either me or you. It is not a zero-sum game. I think I advise that all global powers should understand that how they can work together to have a better system for the developing countries, an equitable system where a good governance can prevail and people are stabilized. All will benefit. It's a win-win world that Woodrow Wilson envisioned 100 years ago. And this is not a altruistic thing. This is a pragmatic policy and tested by time and history. I can give you 2-3 examples after 9/11 that $8 trillion America spent in wars could have been totally avoided, totally defeated radicalism in the Arab world, and totally became a winner, a global, unquestionable global leader in the world. It's one simple thing, this thing that I talked about. $8 trillion wasted down the drain for military confrontation, reckless militarism.
Well, we pray, God willing, that Bangladesh will be a vanguard in the U.S. retraining and reteaching itself to approach foreign policy in a more rational way. This has been a nice conversation. I am guessing we are going to have more of these conversations in the coming months. I have
one concluding. I hope that in 26 and 28, 2026 and 2028 would be a massive change in Congress. And I hope that good leaders young generation politicians would come to Congress to make constructive policies and contribute to foreign policies. And this is the time they really reflect on the failures of the United States policy and time to reflect that what could be done for future for the developing countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan and other countries and Myanmar. And so I actually invite all global powers to work together because this is not a world that rivalry can benefit. This is not a world that a zero-sum game will do any good to anybody. It is about cooperation, and it is about working together, coexisting, the global powers realizing their limitations and their contributions to a better world. And that is what I'm appealing to all big leaders and grown-up leaders of the world today.
I think that's a good way of describing it. We need our leaders to be more grown up. Okay. All right. It's been a nice conversation. I understand that you have a very large rally to attend in about 30 minutes. I will let you get to that. Once again, you're
Yeah.
watching Vision for a Global Village with Ruby Amatullah and Matthew Capiello. Peace.